Hey you guys, good morning. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to go through this with you, but please follow along and copy notes into your notebook. And I'll also leave a PDF version of this. There are 2 short videos that you'll need to watch after you watch this video, and you can access that on the PDF version of this, which of course is on Google Stream. Okay, so we are it's still into chapter 1. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the science of biology and introduction to biology. It's super short. There's only 2 sections in your book. So this time and then the next time I see you, then we'll go through another short PowerPoint about living things, and then we'll kind of wrap up the chapter. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was see if I can get this going here, is a little bit about biology just in general. So first of all, biology is the study of life. Bio means life, ology means the study of, or ology is the study of, so hence the study of life. A real technical definition, the science that seeks to understand the living world. Some branches of biology is zoology, the study of animals. Botany is the study of plants. I did not find botany very exciting, but some people really love it. Microbiology is the study of very small life forms, so we're talking about bacteria, viruses, molds, fungi. If you decided to get a degree in biology, you will take a class in each one of these branches of biology. When we are talking about biology, we very often deal with the biosphere because the biosphere is the connection between the living world and the thin layer of the non-living world. So in biology, there's definitely a big interaction between the living and the non-living, which is our biosphere. Anytime we talk about organisms, when you hear the term organism, that means living. Another term for living is biotic. So the biosphere is the connection between the biotic and the abiotic world. So if we're talking about the abiotic world, we're talking about anything that is not living, air, soil, water, just some good examples. Living, of course, animals, plants, are all living things or organisms. When it comes to the biosphere, we do have something called biodiversity, and this is the variety of life throughout the biosphere. So biodiversity can differ depending on where you're at in the biosphere or on Earth. So biodiversity is going to increase from the poles to the equator, meaning that you are going to have less biodiversity, less variety of life in your South Pole and the North Pole. When it comes to areas in the biosphere that have high biodiversity, we're talking about like the rainforest, the jungle, large biodiversity, close to 2 million different species in the biosphere, species of organisms. Just so you have an idea of what a species is, I wanted to give you a definition. So when we're talking about a species, it's going to be one particular type of organism that can reproduce successfully by interbreeding amongst themselves. So the key here is in order for a group of organisms to be a species, they have to interbreed successfully. So they have to reproduce amongst themselves and then reproduce offspring successfully. Species, anytime we're talking about different species, they've got different names to them. We've got a few pictures over here. Common name, cat, cow. Their species name, however, Felis cactus, that is the species name for cats. Bos taurus, that's the name, species name for cows. And then, of course, Homo sapiens, that is the species name for us humans. Okay, so moving on, all living things have a handful of characteristics, and these characteristics, they do vary depending on the book you read or the author you're dealing with or the website you're working with, but almost all scientists and textbooks can really agree on these top 6 characteristics of living things. The first one is all living things are composed of cells or have cellular organization, meaning that cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems, so on and so forth. Living things could be cellular or unicellular or multicellular. If they are unicellular, that means they're composed of one single cell, and those are going to be your bacteria. There's a little organism called planaria, and that is like a really small jellyfish. That's considered unicellular. Organisms that are multicellular, most of all the organisms around are multicellular, meaning they are composed of 2 or more cells. So I'm multicellular, you're multicellular, your dog is multicellular, the broccoli you ate for dinner last night, all multicellular. Second characteristic is all living things contain genetic material. They have their own genetic code, and they pass this code on from generation to generation. Our genetic material is housed in something called the DNA molecule. If you remember, the structure is a double helix or a twisted ladder, and we do pass that on, of course, from generation to generation. Our DNA is held within, if you guys remember maybe from the past, chromosomes. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, or 46 chromosomes total. Dogs have 39 pairs. I think fruit flies have 4 pairs. So the amount of genetic material from organism to organism definitely differs. The third is living things reproduce and grow. Reproduction could be sexual or asexual. If it's asexual, it's basically cells dividing. So a bacteria would reproduce by dividing and making more cells. Sexual reproduction is when you have a sperm and an egg come together to form a single cell called a zygote. And then, of course, that zygote is going to grow into whatever organism it is we're talking about. Our fourth characteristic of living things is they obtain and they use energy. So you've got autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs are organisms like plants that can make their own food. So for instance, plants can undergo photosynthesis, so that's taking carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and producing glucose and oxygen gas. That glucose, or basically it's a sugar, is the energy that plants live off of. So plants are autotrophs. Heterotrophs are those organisms that have to consume other organisms in order to obtain their energy. So you, me, your dog, your cat, the possum that's living on my fence. Those are all considered to be heterotrophs. The fifth characteristic of living things is they respond to their environment. I'll give you a great example of this. I've got a big tree in my front yard, and there is one particular branch, well, about 2 or 3 branches, that are growing off in a very strange direction, not following the rest of the branches, and the reason is those branches and those leaves are trying to reach the sunlight, and they are responding to their environment. So some organisms would respond to light, temperature, touch. The very last one, and again I said depending on where you look or what you read, there might be a few more, but we're sticking to the 6 main ones. Maintain stable internal environment. That's called homeostasis, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next time we have notes. But that means, for instance, if we go outside and it's really, really, really hot, our internal system will not, like our blood's not going to boil, our organs are not going to burn up. There's a very, our insides have a very own environment that works to keep us alive and is not influenced by the outside environment. So that means we have homeostasis, or we maintain a stable internal environment inside. And that's all organisms. Okay, so a few things. What I do want you to do, I'll show you right here, is make sure you go to the PDF of these notes and click here and watch this YouTube video, and make sure you click here and watch this YouTube video. And we are going to stop right there. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll be in touch soon.